Hello dear students. Today's class I am going to explain bioinorganic chemistry. So, living bodies are made up of compounds that have many elements. All reactions and processes in the living system are carried out far away from equilibrium. These reactions maintain the supply. These reactions maintain the supply of energy and matter with specific structure that is essential for life. The chemistry for life involves the chemistry for life involves at least 25 to 30 elements. Nearly 30 elements are found in the biological system. Okay, so biological system for the living beings. Okay, so bioinorganic chemistry deals with the study of materials, biochemical changes in the living organisms, which includes the origin of living matter, that is for the growth and reproduction, etc. Okay, so the living beings have two types of constituents: organic component, inorganic component. Organic component is the main constituent that is derived from the inorganic components. Organic components and inorganic components. Organic component is the main constituent that is derived from the inorganic elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. So this organic part is about 90% of the solid matter, and the remaining 10% is being the inorganic matter. So proteins, carbohydrates, fats are examples of the organic constituents, okay? Organic components. Now coming to the second one, that is the inorganic component. This component, it is very less amount in the body, okay? Yet this, it is very important. It is not less important. It is very important than the organic component. Okay, so inorganic component, although it is very less amount in the body, it has a vital role than organic component. Because it maintains the vital activities of the living beings. So the inorganic elements are divided into two types: essential elements and non-essential elements. Essential elements are further divided into macro elements, micro elements. First, let me give you the example of the essential. We'll define what are the essential elements. So, the elements which are indispensable for maintaining normal living state of the tissue. So, depending upon their amounts, absolute amounts in the body, again you can classify this essential elements into macro and micro elements. Okay, so these are important, indispensable for the normal living state of the body. So these elements are absolutely necessary in the small or large quantities to our body. Such elements are called essential elements. So these elements, again, depending upon their quantity, they are divided into macro elements and micro elements. So the elements are macro. What are the macro elements and the micro elements? The elements which are required more than 1 gram, okay, which are required more than 1 mg per day are called macro elements. So you can take, okay, so the macro elements generally here 100 mg, more than 100 mg per day, also gram, 1 gram. So the elements are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, okay, phosphorus, calcium, magnesium, sodium, chloride, potassium. Okay, so microelements. Coming to the microelements. So macroelements require more than 100 mg per day. Okay, so the micro elements are required less than 100 mg. So what these micro elements are required in the lesser quantity. So generally the macro elements, here carbon, among the first four here, in the macro elements carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, they occur in the substantial amounts even in the body. Okay, they are even derived from the carbohydrates, lipids and proteins. So nearly 85% of the total oxygen, nearly 70% of the hydrogen, they occur in the water, hydrogen. So total weight, three-fourth of the total weight, which makes three-fourth of the total weight. Okay, so nearly here coming, the body gets the oxygen directly from the atmosphere, nearly 85% of the here, nearly you get from the 85% total oxygen. Okay, and nearly 70% of the hydrogen occur together in the form of water. This water is nothing but 3/5 of the total body weight. So the remaining amount is nothing but oxygen and hydrogen, and all nitrogen. Most of the carbon and some of the sulfur also derived from the carbohydrates, lipids, proteins. So these all fulfill the basic requirement for the tissue structures, the biochemical substances for the structures. And coming to the micro elements, these are required in the less amount. Okay, very least amounts. So you are having in that, again you are having the essential, probably essential, non-essential. So cobalt, chromium, copper, fluorine, iron, okay, molybdenum, okay, next selenium, zinc, okay, these are essential microelements. So they are in the though less amounts, but they are essential. Probably essential, yeah, these are also essential elements. Nickel, silicon, tin, okay. So these are also probably essential. Now later on we'll see functions. Non-essential, this arsenic, cadmium, mercury, lead, antimony, boron, these are very toxic, non-essential elements. Okay, so we have seen the categorization, how we have done. So bioinorganic chemistry, in that bioinorganic chemistry, it's nothing but the study of the materials, chemicals, chemical changes in the living organisms. Okay, so these include the origin of the living matter, growth, reproduction, so on. Okay, in this bioinorganic chemistry, we have seen the chemistry of life, how it is. So the chemistry of life is essentially the chemistry of the cell. So I'm telling you. So generally, cell structure should be known for you. The chemistry of life is essentially the chemistry of a cell. So the environment in which the elements carried out in the essential functions are nothing but extracellular fluid. Okay, the fluid that is outside the cell wall, extracellular fluid. The cell wall through which the material is transported into the cell from outside. Okay, so the cytoplasmic fluid inside the cell and the organelles present inside the cell. Organelles are again localized structures inside the cell. Again, you have the nuclei, mitochondria. Okay, so the micro elements are present in the extracellular fluid. Here, the chemistry of life, I'm explaining you how it is there. Okay, so the chemistry of life is essentially nothing but the chemistry of the cell. Okay, extracellular fluid, cytoplasmic fluid, organelles, mitochondria, nuclei. So these, all these are elements, okay, carry out the essential functions for this. Okay, so the micro elements are present in the extracellular fluid. Cell is the basic unit for our body. The micro elements present in the extracellular fluid, nothing but sodium ion, calcium ion, copper ion, chloride. Okay, so micro elements in the extracellular fluid. Now coming to the cytoplasm, it is having, so cytoplasm, it is having the potassium ions, magnesium ions, cobalt, zinc, okay, phosphorus, selenium. Okay, so these elements in the organelles, okay, and the elements, all these are in the cytoplasm. Now the elements in the organelles are nothing but potassium ion, magnesium ion, iron, cobalt, zinc, nickel, manganese, phosphorus, selenium. Okay, so these are present in the organelles. Now we'll see. Okay, that is the chemistry of life. So it's nothing but the chemistry of the cell. That is what I mean. So now we have divided the elements essential, non-essential, essential again further divided to macro and the micro elements. We have seen the classification. Now let us see the importance and the functions of each ion. Now the first one is the sodium ion. So sodium ion, first we'll see. So before going into the functions, I'll just give you the sources of the sodium. Okay. So for, okay, the main source of the sodium and sodium chloride, both of them one and the same. So sodium, the source, main source, it is in the diet, common table salt. You know, common table salt is the source for the NaCl. You just get through the cooking, you find it in the cooking. Okay, so generally food from the plants is also low in concentration of the sodium. Okay, so from these salts you get the sodium chloride. Okay, similarly for the potassium, coming to the potassium, it occurs on the foods, both plant and animals. Okay, so coffee, tea, cocoa, dried beans, molasses. Okay, most of them will be getting the potassium, but the main source of the sodium and chloride, it is only in the mainly in the common table salt that we get from the cooking. Okay, generally very less in the plant sources. Now we'll see the absorption. Absorption here, coming to the absorption, generally sodium, generally sodium, potassium, chloride are almost completely absorbed from gastrointestinal tract. They are generally in the gastrointestinal tract, their absorption. Okay, less than 2% they are ingested sodium, and less than 10% being eliminated in the feces. Okay, so that completely absorbed in the gastrointestinal tract. That's what I mean. But very less is excreted. Whatever the ingested one, in that ingested one, the excreted one is very less, that is only 2% go out. And potassium, only 10% is being eliminated in the feces. Okay, now going to the distribution. So distribution, sodium, potassium, they occur in plants as well as the animals as the salts. Okay, so inorganic acids, salts of the proteins, organic acids. Okay, so sodium has the extracellular cation. That's, it has been the main extracellular cation. Okay, that is the distribution. Now a deficiency. So later on will come for the functions, which the slide is shared. So we need the functions. So, but before coming to the functions, we should know the sources, the absorption, distribution, deficiency. So extreme perspiration over a long period, diarrhea you'll be getting, vomiting. So there occurs a deficiency during summer seasons, you see. Okay, so diarrhea and vomiting may cause the deficiency. Now we'll see the functions, a very very important part of the sodium. So what are the functions? It is most abundant electrolyte in the body. Its normal levels are 134 to 142 milliequivalents per liter. Major source is diet. Okay, so as I've told you, coming to the functions, it regulates the water balance. Okay, so maintains normal hydration and the osmotic pressure. It regulates the water balance, maintains a normal hydration and osmotic pressure. Sodium as well as potassium ions helps in maintaining normal osmotic pressure in the body and protects against the loss of the fluids, loss of the fluids. Okay, so now maintenance of the normal acid balance is also another important function. Okay, regulates water balance. In this water balance only we can tell maintenance of the normal hydration, osmotic pressure. At the same time, maintenance of the normal acid balance is also done. So Na plus, K plus react with weak acids. Okay, so they form the buffer solutions. As a result, they regulate the pH. They regulate the pH. Okay, controls the extracellular fluid. Okay, the water flows from sodium in the body. Okay, So they increase the cell membrane permeability, the normal hydration here. Okay, nerve stimulates the condition of the nerve impulses. How? So it is nothing but maintenance of the normal acid base balance. The blood pH is maintained 7.3 to 7.4 just because of the sodium ions. They are having even the neuromuscular irritability they decrease. Okay, maintain the neuromuscular irritability. That means neuromuscular, it maintains the normal irritability and excitability. Irritability is directly proportional to Na plus and K plus. Okay, so they maintain the viscosity. Another very, very important one is they maintain the viscosity of the blood. Okay, sodium and potassium ions helps in regulating the degree of hydration of the plasma proteins. Okay, globin proteins in the physical solution. So it's nothing but the viscosity can be maintained. Now they control even the contractibility of the muscles. They control the contractibility of the muscles. Muscle movement is possible. Okay, contractibility. Now transport of CO2 is also done. One more function is transport of CO2. Okay, and secretion, a very important function, secretion of the digestive fluids. See HCl, how it is maintained by intake of the NaCl. Okay, so alkaline digestive fluids like the bile juice, pancreatic juices, everything that derive from the sodium and potassium ions. So secretion of the digestive fluids is also maintained by the sodium. Okay, so these are the functions of the sodium. Still there are one more slide. Okay, as I have told you, regulation of the acid base balance along with the chlorine. Okay, and bicarbonate ions as the constituent of the buffer, which I have explained, maintains the buffer of the solution. So it's nothing but maintains the acid base balance. Therefore, it maintains the buffer condition. pH of the blood from 7.3 to 7.4, previously discussed. They maintain the osmotic pressure. I told you, maintenance of the normal hydration in the osmotic pressure. Okay, so protects body against the excess loss of the fluids. So therefore, the osmotic pressure is maintained. So essential for the muscle and nerve irritability. Okay, now involves in the cell membrane permeability. I have explained you. Okay, involves in the glucose, galactose, and amino acid absorption. Okay, and heartbeat maintenance is also one of the function. Viscosity of the blood is also maintained by this sodium. Okay, so this is the sources. I have explained the sodium sources, absorption, distribution, deficiency, and then functions of the sodium. Now let us go for the chloride. So chloride, it is almost the same as that of the NaCl. These two are intercorrelated. So how everything, it is almost Na is associated with the chloride. Na is associated with the chloride ions. So therefore, the function is almost the same to that of the sodium. Okay, so we'll see the functions of chloride ions. So distribution, coming to the sources. Sources, it is the common salt. Just like a previously I have told you, just like the sodium, even the chloride is having the same. You get it from the diet. Okay. So coming to the functions, again, you are having the same as that of the chlorides. It is essential for the water balance, osmotic pressure regulation. It maintains the acid-base equilibrium, just as that of the sodium. Okay, in the gastric juice here, it's special. It is having a special importance in the production of the HCl. Okay, chloride ions. So in the body, you're having, so as the food is taken. Okay, so from in the stomach, the digestive juices act on the food particles. Thereby, they are carried out to the stomach. In the stomach, the minimum pH should be maintained, acidic pH, that is maintained by the HCl, so that digestion takes place properly. So if the HCl is excess, also the ulcers, the gastric problems may occur. It should be in a balanced way. Okay, so The chloride, it is having the important common salt is the main source in the body. Chloride ions, they are involved in the formation of HCl in the gastric juice. Okay, maintaining acid base balance, fluid balance. Okay, osmotic pressure maintenance. Okay, enzyme salivary amylase is activated by chloride ions. Enzyme salivary amylase is activated by the chloride ions. These ions are the major constituent for the plasma and cerebrospinal fluid. Okay, so the concentration of the chloride in the plasma, it's almost 95 to 100 milliequivalents per liter. Okay, deficiency of chloride may be caused by dehydration, vomiting, just like a chlorine here also. By the dehydration, vomiting, sweating may cause the deficiency. Okay, so if the heart problem is there, high BP will be occurring, urinary problems will be occurring. If it is excess, okay, it should be in a normal state. So loss of the sodium, diarrhea, I have told you. Okay, sweating in these all cause deficiency. Loss of the gastric juice by vomiting, duodenal obstruction, again it's a loss of chlorine. Okay, so decrease in the plasma chloride and increase in the bicarbonate concentration results in the hypochloremic alkalosis. And these are the deficiency. If it is excess, that may cause problem for the heart patients. High BP, urinary problems also may occur. Okay, so these are the functions. Now these are the functions of the chlorine. So previously I have discussed for the sodium ion. Now it is chloride. Almost both of them are one and the same. Now coming to the functions of the calcium. Functions of the calcium. As and when we talk about the calcium, you immediately remember your teeth, your bones. Okay, so a very very important element in the body, the calcium. It has a great biological significance. So calcium, it is essential for all organisms. For all organisms, we'll see. Again, I'm going to discuss you the sources of the calcium. Okay, so how this calcium, where the availability of the calcium. So generally, as you're getting older, there calcium is advised to take. So generally, even for the pregnant ladies, formation of the baby, again the calcium is advised to take. Okay, so we'll see the functions of the calcium. So coming to the calcium, it is a structural integrity of the. It is structural integrity of the skeleton. It is the part of the bone as well as it forms the structural integrity. Okay, for the skeleton of our body. Okay, now coming to the calcium, it's abundant mineral in the body. It's very abundant. Okay, so most of the calcium, almost 98% is found in the bones. Okay, distribution. It's used in the form of the shells for most of the animals. Calcium is important in the bones, teeth, calcium phosphate. The enamel of the teeth is fluorapatite. Okay, calcium phosphate, calcium chloride, calcite, calcium carbonate, anhydride calcium sulfate in the eggshells. Mollusks you can take. Okay, so everything where the shell formation calcium is were involved in the muscle contraction. Okay, so neuron activities, okay, maintained the regular heartbeat. Okay, the neuron activity, it maintains a regular heartbeat. Okay, even for the visual process the calcium is required. Calcium, it is there even in the cells. Many there are many functions. Okay, so most of the enzymes, they get activated, they get by the influence of the calcium ions. They use calcium in support of the structures. Okay, so alpha amylase thermolysis contain the calcium in the structure. Calcium in bones, you can see the concentration of the calcium in the plasma is maintained 100 mg per liter. Okay, so the concentration of the calcium in the plasma is maintained around 100 milligrams per liter by means of two hormones, very calcitonin and parathyroid hormone. Okay, so the amount of calcium balance among the intake, storage, and exchange. The amount of the calcium, it's nothing but yeah, how much intake and what is the storage and what is the excretion. So the balance is it's controlled by the three organs. Three organs. One is the intestine, bone, and kidneys. Okay, so calcium's in the extracellular and cellular fluid, it is essential. Calcium ions in the extracellular and the cellular fluid, it is very much essential for normal functioning of the biochemical process in the host. So neuromuscular excitability, signal transductions are carried out by the calcium ions. See, blood coagulation, once if a person gets hurt, again, it should get coagulated. The oozing should stop. So it takes place in presence of calcium. Hormonal secretion, I've told you, hormonal secretion also is controlled by the calcium ions. Enzymatic regulation, neuron excitation, all these are functions of the calcium. So vitamin D promotes deposition of the bones. Calcium ions in the cytoplasm, okay, of muscle fibers play an important role in the muscle function. See, clotting of the blood also I told you. Clotting takes place in presence of calcium. Okay, so prothrombin, a soluble protein. Okay, so in presence of calcium only, prothrombin converted to thrombin. Okay, thereby the precipitation is taken. So, okay, by the action here it is getting activated. It is activated. Okay, the enzyme thrombin by the action of prothrombin activated in presence of calcium. Okay, so in this way, the fibrinogen into the insoluble fibrin. Therefore, clotting of the blood takes place. So these are the functions of the calcium, a very, very important part of the bone and the teeth, okay, for our body. Okay. So now coming to the, just we need just the biological importance, which we have studied. Now coming to the importance of iron, a very important element in our body. Very, very important element in our. So iron, once coming to the iron, it's the most important transition element biologically. In the amounts, the iron is essential for both plant and animal life. But if it is in excess, that is again toxic. Okay, now coming to the sources. The main vegetarian diet includes beans, peas, whole wheat, oatmeals. Many good sources are the spinach, carrots, bananas, beef, cheese, tomatoes. So it is very easily available. Tomatoes, potatoes, apples, orange, milk. Okay. So once a vegetable is cut with the rusty knife even and cooked, in that way also you get. So main non-vegetarian diets includes non-vegetarian, vegetarian sources. I've told you non-vegetarian sources also you're having liver, kidney, heart, fish, spleen, egg yolk. So in the normal diet, the amount of iron it varied from 15 to 20 milligrams per day. It is sufficient generally. So a woman needs more than a man because or else she develops anemia. Okay, so if it is excess also again that's a problem. Now coming to the absorption, iron essential element I have discussed previously. Iron essential element present mainly, okay, heme. See, hemoglobin, RBC, you're having the hemoglobin. RBC, it is present in the hemoglobin. So hemoglobin a major part of the RBC. Again, the same iron it is present even for the formation of the myoglobin structure. Okay, the muscles should be having this myoglobin. So cytochromes for electron transport, even the cytochrome is formed by the iron. So all these porphyrin rings are the assembly of built with the iron. Iron storage proteins also contain iron, ferritin and the hemosiderin. So generally adult human 4 grams is required. So now going for the clinical importance. So before going for the clinical importance, the absorption also you should know. Absorption of the iron, it is usually poor under normal conditions. Okay, only 10 to 15% of the dietary iron gets absorbed in the ferrous state, and mainly in the upper duodenum it takes place. Okay, absorption it is very less, 10 to 15%. Dietary iron gets absorbed in the ferrous form. Okay, that is in the upper duodenum it takes place. and very less in the stomach and the intestine. Generally, intestine is a very absorption, good absorption site for us. But for iron, it is very less in the stomach and the small intestine. Okay, once the iron is absorbed, it is transported by the protein transferrin. Transferrin will transport the iron. Okay, so the human's body state of the non-absorption, it's nothing but interdependent factors. Okay, foods, many foods we have seen. Yeah, next slide you can see the foods. Okay, distribution amount of the iron in the body appreciably it is comparison, and it is essential in nature for the life processes. Healthy individual, you I have told you 3.5 to 4 grams or almost to the 4 grams. Okay, so now for 45 milligrams per kg you require for the body weight. Okay, so biological functions you're having important functions, they perform vital functions. Okay, so iron deficiency it may lead to the anemia, which I've told you. Overdosage, hemosiderosis may occur. Okay, so it is available in three forms. Functional forms are three, and non-functional forms are two for iron. Okay, so hemoglobin, this is a functional part of the iron. Hemoglobin in the RBC you contain the heme is formed pyrrole ring assembly. By the four pyrrole rings assembly with the iron will give you porphyrin heme. This heme, one side it binds with the gases O2 or CO2, and one side it binds with the globin protein. So iron, it's a very important part, functional part for the hemoglobin. It's almost 67% in the body. Myoglobin, it is 7.5%. So it is present in the stored, this is the storage form in the muscles you're having the myoglobin. In the respiratory enzymes, 0.5% as the cytochromes. Okay, respiratory enzymes, you're having only 0.5% in the cytochromes. Electron transport, useful. Non-functional forms, free iron is always toxic. Okay, so iron is bound to the protein. Okay, non-heme metallic proteins, it's transported and stored in the non-toxic forms. So transferrin 0.1%, transport of iron in the blood. Ferritin and hemosiderin 24.9% for storage of the iron in the tissues. Okay, so these are we have seen the distribution functional forms and the non-functional forms. So there are many sources. Previously, as I have told you here, the nuts, spinach, dark chocolates, kidneys, tomatoes. Okay, so molasses, okay, spirulina, apricots. So many sources which we have discussed. So richest non-veg sources are liver, kidney, heart, spleen. Now carrots, spinach, banana, beef, cheese, tomatoes, potatoes, apples, orange, milk. So, okay, so these are the sources. So we have seen the vegetarian sources and the non-vegetarian sources. Now let us go for the next slide. That is nothing but functioning of the iron. How it's going on the functioning for the iron. So coming to the functioning of the iron, very important here, the three forms are there which I have explained you. The functioning forms, hemoglobin, okay, so previously, hemoglobin, myoglobin, cytochromes. So their function is nothing but the functions of the iron. So oxygen carrying in the blood. Hemoglobin, what is the function? Oxygen carriage in the blood. Iron, it is essentially constitute for the hemoglobin. Okay, hemoglobin of the blood. It carries the oxygen from lungs to the other tissues. So that is the function of the hemoglobin as well as it is for the function of the iron. Okay, oxygen supply to the tissues. Okay, binding of the oxygen to RBC transport. Next, the formulation of the cytochrome myoglobin. So oxygen supply is taken place. See, for the oxidative process, for working something, the muscle is required. The muscle you'll be having the myoglobin. Myoglobin it requires the oxygen. So the muscle stores the oxygen in the combination with the hemoglobin. Okay, it contains iron. In the biological oxidation process, the cytochromes, in the biological oxidation processes, okay, some enzymes that is catalase, peroxidase contain iron. So cytochromes catalyze biological oxidation and provide energy. So whatever food particles we are taking, they should get oxidized. So that is there you require oxygen here. So the catalase and peroxidase enzymes are required for that biological oxidation. These enzymes contain iron. Okay. So for RBC formation or red blood cells, it's a very main constituent. Relation with the oxygen nerve cells also. Okay, regulation of the body temperature, muscle activity, catecholamine metabolism, immune system. So if a person he's a weak, he's not having a good, he's not resistant enough, and he's not having a good immune system. So doctors generally advise iron capsules, multivitamin, iron capsules they advise. Okay, so it's better to take a natural food than these capsules. So for the pregnant ladies also, the iron capsules will be given. Okay, for the new formation baby and for the mother. So their iron capsules will be given. So it's a very much important for the immune system, brain development and the functions, even for the thyroid functions. Okay, so for the nerve cells, it's required for the cell nucleus, chromatic material. It contains chromatic material of the nucleus. Nucleus, it's having the chromatin. In that also, the nucleus, the chromatin, it requires iron. Okay, so these are the important functions of the iron. Once, if there is a deficiency for iron, what happens? So once if there is any deficiency, coming to the deficiency, you will be getting the mental fatigue. Very weak, you feel the brain couldn't function properly, the mental fatigue. There is a hair loss you'll be having, you'll be getting headache. Okay, sometimes mouth ulcers, sore throat. Okay, due to the lack of this iron, sometimes minerals. So found infections, as I've told you, infections why? Because there is rest resistance. So immune system gets dropped down because of the iron deficiency, and thereby there are different types of infections. You can see the paleness. So once if a person is having any problem, immediately any accident or any disease condition, what they do is they just first they inject the blood. So why? Because iron, it has a multifunctioning, which we have discussed previously. So for the pale persons also, they are prone to diseases quickly due to less immune system resistance. Okay, shortness of breath. Recently, we have seen even this COVID, how it's generally attacking for all the people, but here, due to if the persons who are more resistant, good blood, and more resistant system, then they are able to overcome this corona. But if the person is a pale, if he's having less blood, he is less. His immune system is a bit poor, and thereby he is prone for the disease. Okay, and thereby attack of different diseases taking place. Okay, shortness in breath. See, this is also a great problem. Oxygen availability. Okay, so hemoglobin not giving oxygen properly. Corona. Okay, iron deficiency. Very very important. Okay, so hemoglobin decreases, again the oxygen gas, oxygen availability decreases, oxygen very important, therefore shortness in breath. So this deficiency iron is a great problem during this covid days. Okay, so shortness in breath you can have. Okay, physical fatigue, exhaustion. Okay, brittle nails, cold intolerance, restless legs. Okay, so all the problems, different problems, different due to the deficiency of the iron occurs. But these days, it's very important for this covid days, to overcome this virus. You need good iron, good minerals, you need resistance for the body. So main iron is a very important factor for this breathing, because once if iron is deficient, heme is deficient, thereby hemoglobin is deficient, and thereby oxygen transport will become a problem. Okay, So I hope everybody have understood today the importance we have discussed for the four minerals. That's nothing but you are having the sodium. We have seen what is a bioinorganic chemistry, chemistry of life, essential, non-essential elements, macro elements, micro elements, the functioning of the sodium, the function. So not only the functioning we have seen the slide. Just today's class is just functioning of the elements, but side by side I have discussed for you the sources, distribution, okay, absorption, deficiency, and functions were also discussed for sodium, for chlorine, for the calcium, and for iron. I hope everybody have understood this class. Okay, so distribution is also discussed, sources, functions, absorption, and deficiency is also discussed. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have understood my class. Next class, we'll see the remaining elements and the toxicity of some of the elements.